London, she organized Christian patrols, marched with crosses through heavily Muslim neighborhoods and accosted veiled women to rail against Islam. She was barred from entering any mosque in England. She has been arrested several times, most recently this month, on charges of making threats and abusive remarks. Still, Jada Franson, the 31-year-old deputy leader of Britain First, a fringe group that insists that white Christian civilization is under threat from Muslims, had gotten relatively little attention. That changed on Wednesday, when Britain First got unexpected publicity from President Trump, who recirculated 3 sometimes misleading videos. Ms. Franson had posted on Twitter that purported to show Muslims engaged in violence. Hours later, Ms. Franson took to Twitter to thank him. "You've shed light on my plight here in Britain, in that I am facing prison for giving a speech in which I criticized Islam," she wrote. "This is evidence that Britain has become Sharia compliant," she added, referring to Islamic law. Mr. Trump's tweets drew a rare rebuke from a staunch ally, as Britain's Prime Minister and British lawmakers from across the spectrum said that he had given a platform to a hate group, one so extreme that it has been shunned even by other far-right organizations, and has attracted the notice of law enforcement. Matthew J. Goodwin, a scholar at Chatham House who studies far-right politics in Britain, said that Britain First was not really a populist right movement but basically a neo-Nazi one. It emerged in 2011 as an offshoot of the far-right British National Party, and while it has shown some interest in electoral politics, it is best known for confrontational tactics that have left the authorities aghast and unsettled. On the scale of far-right groups, this is one on the very far right, Mr. Goodwin said, citing tactics like what the group calls invasions of mosques. Britain First is seen as a pseudo-paramilitary group. He added, "They have got what they want, which is global media attention." Through a spokesman, Mrs. May said that Britain First seeks to divide communities by their use of hateful narratives that peddle lies and stoke tensions. Britain's Foreign Secretary, Boris Johnson, called Britain First a divisive, hateful group whose views are not in line with our values. Some lawmakers from the opposition Labour Party went further, urging Mrs. May, who leads the Conservative Party, to rescind an invitation to Mr. Trump to pay a state visit to Britain. "The U.S. president is normalizing hatred," one lawmaker, Chuka Umunna, wrote on Twitter. "If we don't call this out, we are going down a very dangerous road." In Britain, right-wing groups have come under increasing scrutiny amid concerns that anti-immigrant sentiment and xenophobia are gaining traction in the fraught climate surrounding the decision to leave the European Union. In September, 4 army soldiers were arrested on suspicion of being involved in the commission, preparation, and instigation of acts of terrorism. At the time, the police said the men were suspected of being members of National Action, a far-right group that was banned last year and is known for anti-Semitic, homophobic and racist views. In November, Thomas Mayer, a man with a history of extreme right-wing beliefs, was convicted of murdering Joe Cox, a Labour Party lawmaker, 1 week before Britain's June 2016 referendum on whether to leave the bloc.